Welcome back to Investing with Confidence. I am your host, Joshua David. We're having a good time with my good friend and the mastermind of this operation, Mr. Al Connickson. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and check it out on YouTube. Al, as we get into this next segment, I mentioned earlier that hypothetically, think about a little story here. If I were to place $1,000 in the middle of this table, right, and I need you to manage it for me, okay? And I think you're a good guy, so I'm going to think it's okay for me to pay you 2% for you to manage that.
Yeah, I deserve that.
You deserve that because I think you're a good guy.
I'm a good guy.
You're a nice guy. So in these decisions, I'm going to ask you, okay, can you put, $300 in, this fund and $500 in another fund? And I'm making those decisions, right? The money's still there. You're just, making that happen for me.
Sure.
Now, you're charging me that 2% fee to do what I am telling you or asking you to do. Does that make any sense where if I were to place that money in an account, I'm already making the decisions.
Sure.
Why can't I make those decisions myself? What if I wanted to, have you place it in futures or in Forex? Would you be able to do that? Potentially, but probably not, because that's probably not something you're going to want to do or even know how to do.
Yeah, I would probably tell you that you shouldn't do that because it's too risky.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's probably because the brokers and advisors, they're not necessarily traders. They're salespeople that are selling people funds, right? Now, what can I do a little bit differently there? I could potentially make those decisions in myself.
Sure, you can.
In my own account, right? And then I have those choices as far as, do I want to be in stocks? Do I want to be in options? Do I want to be in futures? Or do I want to be in Forex? What do I do there? I eliminate that fee.
Sure.
Right? What are some different ways and techniques somebody can do that where they're not stuck to paying a fee all the time?
Yeah, well, the first decision you have to make is if you want to trade futures, Forex, or options, you need to get the education. You have to have the knowledge to be able to do that, because there's things that are peculiar to each one of those that you need to understand.
That was that word,
That
wasn't
was
it?
the one word that I don't know why
I will not say it today.
We got stuck on one word. Once you say it wrong, good luck in getting it right.
I'm going to try it on the break, and then if I can do it, I'll try the next segment.
Yeah, but I want get back to your $1,000 story here for a minute. But let's say that you have that $1,000 and you want me to manage it, and I'm going to charge you 2%. Well, I have a huge table, and it's not just your $1,000 there. I have maybe 200 or 300 other piles of $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000. How can I have the time to devote to each one of those piles of money to really do what is in each person's best interest?
Yeah, and plus, if I only have 1,000 in there, you probably have clients that have 10,000, 50,000, 100,000,
or millions
or more.
Right.
Why would you even pay attention to mine?
Yeah, most brokers will have a client or two or three or four that might have tens of millions of dollars, and you have to concentrate on them first. You cannot let them walk out the door.
And you know that because you used to be in that business.
And I have gone through exactly that situation. And the biggest client you have, when they call, you better be there and you better be ready to act. Well, you had mentioned, what if I wanted to trade futures or Forex? The problem there for a broker, and one of the reasons they might try to convince you shouldn't do that, is because it takes too much work for them to do it. If I've got 200 or 300 piles of money to manage, and some of those piles of money are being invested in short-term things that you get into and out of on a short-term basis,
that are designed for income potential, right?
That are designed for short-term income, the time isn't there. So what's the easiest thing for me to do and still collect my money is to take that money and then give it to a mutual fund manager, and then let them manage it.
And let it sit there.
And convince you that the best thing you can do is just hold on to it and don't worry about drawdowns. Don't worry about corrections. This is a long-term thing for you. And well, how do you get short-term income from a long-term thing?
Think about that. I mean, if you're listening right now, think about that. Do you feel like you're in that same position? A lot of our listeners probably have heard those same terms.
Sure.
And they're told to do certain things, but they want to be able to do things on their own. But they got to do it with confidence. So how do you help people learn?
Yeah. And the confidence comes with, first of all, getting the knowledge. It's like anything else you do. If you're going to fly a plane, you want to learn, first of all, why does a plane fly? How do you get it to come off the ground? How do you get it to come back on the ground in the way you want it to come back on the ground? in trading and in investing is the same. It's getting the knowledge, but it's more than that. It's then developing the skills to use that knowledge, because the knowledge isn't of any value to you unless you know how to use it and when to use it and why you're using it. That comes from repetition. It doesn't come from listening to a webinar or attending maybe a day-long seminar or reading a book or a CD. That can impart some knowledge to you, but it doesn't help you build the skills to use it. That is what I think it really sets the Online Trading Academy apart, is that is what they excel at, is helping you to build the skills. That's something that is ongoing, and you want to make sure, let's say that you start to trade and you have learned how to trade a certain asset. Almost 100% you're going to encounter situations that you're not prepared for, or maybe you forgot how to properly address that particular situation. Then you have to have somewhere you can go to get an answer right away. You can't ask a book a question. You can't go to a hotel where there was a seminar a week or 2 or 3 weeks ago. You have to have access to somebody that can help you now, and maybe that entails going to a place, a physical place, where there will be people there that are there to help you, to help support you and guide you through, some of the issues, or maybe just give you some motivation and some accolades for the good things that you're doing.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up about, our sponsor, Online Trading Academy. They have physical locations, physical academies, really all across the country, or all across the world, actually, but right here, locally here as well. And that's where people can help guide you through your learning process, especially if you're brand new. I mean, most people that come to these investing classes that I'm talking about have never traded before.
Right.
They're investing in the market, like say 401ks, IRAs, but not making their own decisions. Well, technically they are making their decisions, but not doing that potentially the right way. Now, with people, you mentioned earlier, there's assets that are designed for income potential.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. The futures and the Forex market being probably the best markets out there. That's kind of like the secret from Wall Street. They don't want to tell people, yeah, these are pretty good assets, because there's some perks to that. You have leverage, but they're also open around the clock. Explain what that concept really is.
Well, yeah, futures and Forex trade essentially 24 hours a day. Forex, it does trade 24 hours. Futures, 23 hours and 45 minutes. The reason that that's important is that gives you the opportunity to choose when you want to trade. It gives you the opportunity to manage your assets 24 hours a day and take advantage of things that are happening, not just here in this country, but globally. So you have the ability to participate financially in a global way.
And just to clarify that, even though it's globally, doesn't mean you have to go to Europe and place your trades.
No,
it's all done on a platform, whether you're at home or as long as you have internet connection, that's where your decisions are made, is on a platform.
Well, and that's what's really changed things. The internet has really opened up some opportunities for us that weren't available. Like back when I was working as a broker, people didn't have access to high-speed internet, so you had to use a broker. You either had to use a broker, or you had to go into one of these, basically a day trading center, and rent a space at a computer and try to trade without any knowledge, typically lasting maybe a week or so, and then your accounts were wiped out. So people had to use a broker. Now you can use the internet, and the trading platforms that are available are very sophisticated. But the key difference now is that education is available. The proper education is available. And if you're not educated properly, if you don't have the right knowledge, you don't have the skills to use the knowledge and the right tools and resources to, help give you the edge, put the odds in your favor, then essentially what's happening is that you're guessing, you're trading with emotions. And the pros out there, the people that make their money off of these markets, will tell you that they are making their money off of your emotions. As a human being, we're born with emotions that will interfere with our ability to be a good trader or investor.
That's why it's important to have a plan.
And the reason that a plan will help you there is that just the inherent emotional component of it that we have as human beings is hard to control. That fear and that greed. I mean, it's hard. If you're watching a market crashing, if you have a portfolio and the market's down 50 or 60% like it was in 2008, it's pretty hard to tell your gut not to get involved and not to be afraid of what's happening. Well, a proper plan, has a set of rules that you follow that basically should be the same set of rules you follow for any trade that you do. That's that part of the core strategy, part of your plan. That core strategy part, the foundational strategy, should help you to identify the right time to get into and out of something. Basically, what you're doing is you're identifying unfilled institutional orders. And by unfilled, I mean they just haven't happened yet. You are looking forward. With our strategy, you're looking forward. Most of the strategies out there that are taught are backward looking. They're really relying on something that's already happened. So we're looking at something that is going to happen with a high degree of accuracy. That's the core foundational strategy that you use. Once you have identified that and you follow that set of rules and you practice it for enough times to kind of get comfortable with it, gain the confidence in knowing that it's going to help you on a consistent basis, then you decide which asset to use. And the market doesn't always do the same thing. And so the same asset, the same strategy may not work in all market conditions. And it may not work for you, but might work for your neighbor who maybe has different goals, different aspirations. So everything should be customized to you. And I've used this analogy before about a recipe. If you're going to bake a cake, you have a recipe. Well, a cook does not use the same recipe for cake and for casseroles. For example, I prefer not to have broccoli in my chocolate cake. So you use a recipe.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm positive. So what you want to do is have a plan that addresses different market conditions and then also applies the right asset to use and the right strategy in those different conditions based on what your goals are.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that example of a recipe, because if you think about this, a lot of people that listen to the show probably have cooked in the past, and they had a recipe when they first started. But the more and more they did that, I mean, think of it as somebody making a box of mac and cheese, right? Have you ever looked at the directions after the first 5 times of using that or eating that? You probably never look at the directions before, because you build that muscle memory. The more and more times you do something, the better you get at it. And that's where practice, as Al is talking about, comes into play, is practice this, make this a critical life skill, not an extracurricular activity. And as far as the futures market, you have the stock markets, you have your commodities, you have these opportunities that are non-correlated to the stock market.
Right.
So you can be properly diversified, right? So that way you're not just stuck to just stocks or just stuck to just mutual funds. You have more opportunities. With the Forex market, you have the currency market, the global market, more opportunities there as well. That's the largest market that's out there. That's actually larger than all the stock markets in the world combined. Roughly around $5 trillion traded per day.
Per day.
Yeah. And that's a great opportunity for people to get in and out of their positions because there's more liquidity.
Right.
Now, a lot of people that are trying to retire and their 401k is not really keeping pace with their age. So I want to talk about some different techniques and concepts within retirement accounts that people may be able to apply based on what their objective is.
Sure.
We'll be right back.